All right. I am so excited because I finally get to introduce to you an incredible woman that I met in the Paul Mitchell School Network. Her name is Ashley, quote unquote, Rhodie Menzies. That's her nickname. She'll share with us how she got that nickname. I think it's super cute how she got that as well. So first and foremost, Ashley, thank you for finally making it on and being very patient with me.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be on today. Um, you are one of my mentors. I remember the first time I got on a call with you, I was just like, I was geeking out. I was fangirling. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the same like vicinity as her. She knows my name. So this is a dream come true. So thank you so much for having me on.
I love that. I am so attracted to people that have high energy, and you definitely have actually more energy than me. So to find someone with more energy gets me super excited. And so as soon as I met you, I said, she's got to be in my life. And then we made you a co-host for the Be Nice Club and kind of wheeled you in there. So thank you for being a part of our national Be Nice Clubs in the Paul Mitchell School Network.
Thanks. I
So
love it.
much
It's one of
fun.
my favorite parts of the week and month.
Same. Yep, it keeps me going for sure. So Ashley, I'm going to share with you who she is. So Ashley actually became a hairdresser in 2003. She went to the Paul Mitchell School in Rhode Island, and she worked for the Robert Cromeans Salon underneath Stephanie Kocieiski, who I got to get back on my Be Amazing podcast. She's been on before. I got to get her back. Love that woman. She's currently
Amazing.
one of my salon coaches right now too, Ashley. And man, what a pleasure for you to be able to be trained by her for sure in San Diego and Tulsa. And now, officially, now you're the co-education leader at the Paul Mitchell School in Tulsa. You are
Yes.
also on the Paul Mitchell School's advanced education team. And then you've been on that for almost 7 years. And you're also a national educator for John Paul Mitchell System. So congratulations on your success in the hair industry. Do you feel like you're living your dream?
Oh yeah. I like if I would be able to tell like little Rhodie in hair school that was just so nervous, so timid, not confident, I would be like, it's gonna be okay. Like things are gonna be okay, and you're gonna be able to do things that you really never thought that you would do. And I try to really inspire the future professionals and say, you're sitting in this chair here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, thinking, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And you hear all these stories, and I'm here to tell you, like, the proof's in the pudding, drink the Kool-Aid, like do all the things, say yes, because, that's what I did. Like I
Yeah.
was obsessed with Paul Mitchell, and,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have gotten all the opportunities that I have gotten and be able to travel, and the things that Paul Mitchell Schools has brought into my life is really something so special and such an amazing journey. And I'm able to share it and inspire the next generation of hair. And there's nothing better than that.
Yeah. When you find a company that changes your life personally, it's a company that you never want to leave. And I really attest to that too. And you said something pretty big, and I would love to hear a little bit of your journey going into the Paul Mitchell School, because it's interesting. You came in this industry in 2003. I became a Paul Mitchell School owner 2001, 2002. So not much more before when you did. And I felt the same thing, not confident, very timid. And if you would have said to me back then that I'd be doing all that I'm doing now, Rhodie, you'd be like, no way. Oh, no. Uh-uh. I mean, ask the other Paul Mitchell School owners. When I would get up on stage, I was shaking so bad that I could barely get any words out, right?
Oh,
And so it's just so crazy to see how far I've come, but it is so true with just the belief that the Paul Mitchell School leaders, including Win Claybaugh, had in me and John Paul DeJoria, that it's like you can't help but grow and to be around really like believers which transform. So talk about your transformation that you had, and what happened with you.
it's funny you said like 2001, and I graduated high school in 2001. And when I graduated, I thought I knew what I wanted to do. I got into radio. And I was on the radio. I was a radio DJ, and I always did hair on my friends and myself. Like me and Sally's were best friends, the beauty supply store. I think they knew my name in there. And I had no idea what I was doing. I would go in there and get like 40 volume and lightener and, blast open my cuticle and have, chicken butt yellow hair and be like, I'm blonde. Um, and so, um, and my parents never really, sold it to me as a career. They were like, when you leave high school, you go to college and, or you get a job. And so I was lucky enough, I interned at a radio station in high school, and they gave me an opportunity. This crazy girl, they let her on the radio, and
Wow.
I lucked out and I did that. But what's funny is every day I would drive to the radio station, I would pass by the Paul Mitchell School in Rhode Island. And it was a brand new school. It was one of, I think, the first 5 schools in the
Yeah.
network.
Hmm.
And they at the time, it was really all about fashion colors. If you were a hairstylist, you had a fashion color. No
Hmm.
one else did at that time. And so
Yeah.
I remember driving by and seeing their hair. And I would like do kind of like this drive by where I drive really slow by the school so I could look at everyone's hair.
Yeah.
And I was kind of obsessed with it. And I was like, they just look like they're having so much fun as they walk in. And
Hmm.
one day on a whim, I stopped in and I walked in and I said, can I have a tour? And I had no appointment, anything. And I was lucky enough, the admissions leader didn't have anything going on that day. And I can tell you, I'll never forget their clinic classroom. There was like kind of a big wall before you got to it. And I walked around that corner and I just remember seeing everything happening on that clinic classroom and just being like, my people. I was
Yeah.
like, I am home. Like something about this feels right. And as I went to each classroom, I got more and more excited. And people were so like complimentary and nice and excited. And
Mm.
I just was like, sign me up now. And I remember going to the admissions office and they were like, well, what do you think? And I was like, when can I start? And they were like, well, we have a class starting next week. And I was like, okay. And I like signed up that day. I didn't tell anyone. I remember going home that
Mm.
evening and I walked up to my parents and I said, I stopped by the Paul Mitchell School today. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, so I'm going to hair school next week. And then I like turned to my dad and I was like jokingly like, you may have some loans out in your name.
Yeah.
I, we're going with this. And I started a journey that
Mm.
honestly, like it was life changing. I walked into that building a timid, not confident, very I was really not nice to myself. I definitely was. I had a mentor once tell me, you must be black and blue on the inside. And I was like, what? And she's like, you beat yourself up all the time. And,
Mm.
that was just me. I was just such a perfectionist. And what the school gave me is, that forward focus mentality of, what's the difference between a good and bad day? How can I change my thoughts and energy? And I really came out of there a more confident and, just more kind to myself and others human being. And that to me is priceless. So that's how I initially got into Paul Mitchell schools. It's kind of a crazy
Hilarious.
story.
I want to hear how your parents feel about it now, almost 20 years later.
At first they were like, okay, this is just something she's doing because she doesn't really know what to do with her life. I think they thought I had like a mid-20s crisis there.
Yeah.
Uh, so I just remember them being like, okay, and I don't think they thought the career would last this long, and I think my mom, it's crazy. She's so proud. She's on Facebook now. And
Oh my gosh.
once your mom gets Facebook, it's all about like
Oh
her
boy.
kids and oh, and it's constant and it's so great because all you want to do is you want to make your parents proud.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one out of my family that's like moved away and traveled like I have. I come from a very small town. Nobody leaves that town, when you grow up there. It's really cool. And I know my dad, unfortunately he passed, but I know he's like so proud of all
Mm,
the things that I've done. And he's like always with me, and I get a little emotional talking about that because my
of
dad was my
course.
person.
Wow. Wow. Okay, I want to talk about this, and I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna call this "Be Nice."
I
And I
love it.
think the reason, and I wasn't sure, I never know what I'm gonna call it, but as soon as I heard you say something and you said, and I love that question that a mentor asked you, you must be black and blue on the inside. And talk about that, because there was a time in my life too, especially 16 to 18, 19. I wasn't very nice to myself. I was black and blue on the inside as well too. So I totally relate to you on this level. This is probably why both of us are Be Nice Club, national hosts of the club, and because we just want to make sure we continue to get that information inside of us so we never get black and blue on the inside again, and help others to do that too. And so talk about that journey for you that caused someone to say that about you.
I think I just always wanted to make people proud. Like I was a very much a people pleaser growing up, with grades. I always had to get straight A's or I was like, just like, oh my gosh, I gotta
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was never like pressure put on by my parents. They were always like, if you tried, that's fine. They never were into pushing me to be like the best. I think it was just something that I always wanted, that pat on the back or that like accolade of like, you did great. And what I've learned over the years is it's not about what others, it's about how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a continuous journey for me. Like, I think I'm still a people pleaser, absolutely. But I think as time goes on, you mature, you learn things, and you learn, the only person at the end of the day that you have is yourself. And so if I can go to bed and put my head on my pillow and know that I'm a good human, really that's all that matters. And so for me, that's kind of the mentality I consistently have daily, and it's still a practice that I have to work on because everybody likes a little pat on the back, but at the end of the day I have to give myself a pat on the back, for trying to live life to the fullest and be a good person.
Yeah. Yeah, you had quite a journey. I know, and you told me in 2004, 2005, you were hospitalized for a year for an eating disorder. Talk a little bit about that, like what transpired that in your life as well too. And it's interesting. Mine was not as bad as yours, but I did have an eating disorder of sorts, and my parents kind of called me out on it early in life. And I
Yeah.
still today still think that I have, some challenges with it, as well too, because I'm always constantly on a diet. It's like this everlasting
Yeah.
diet. Like,
Like a loop.
just stop it, Tina, just stop it. So talk about that, because I think it's something that a lot of women actually go through. So
Yeah. It's honestly, I it started in my 20s, when I graduated high school. I always grew up, I was very athletic, but I was chubby. I was a chubbier girl, I wasn't the skinniest person, but I think it wasn't anything anyone ever said. I think it was just me trying again to be, you know, that perfect person, that people pleaser. And it started slowly, and it started before I got into hair school, like kind of right before. And when I got into hair school, it was at its height. And what the school gave me was that mentality of managing your thoughts and energy, which started to really help me.
mm,
Um, Method of a 10% shift in your brain of going from that backside of like negative self-loathing, you're not special, you're not pretty, you're not this enough, to I am amazing, I am pretty enough, I can do this. And I started to use that, and I got really at a good point personally, and then I used that like professionally to kind of build myself and get the job at a Robert Cromeans Salon. And it was amazing because I remember how happy and healthy I was at the end of my journey at a Paul Mitchell school. I walked into that building, just not the person I walked out of the building, which is a tremendous thank you to the school, the culture, and Win Claybaugh. But I remember my mom came into my last day at school. We did last facings back in the day. And now we do extravagant clap outs. I want to do over,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
my mom came in and she stood up at the end and was like, I would like to say something. And I kind of was like, oh, okay, a little nervous because your mom's
Yeah.
standing up in front of everyone. And she was like, I don't know what goes on at this school. I don't know what you do on a daily, but what I do know is that one thing's for sure, if my daughter didn't, go here and have the experience she had, I don't think at this point in her life, she would be here right now. And that's how special this place is. And I've seen that growth, just her at home. And that's just a testament to what you can do with the amazing tools we have within our schools. Um, I had a life-changing journey out of Paul Mitchell School. Like, you know what I mean? Tell future professionals that if you're open to it, you will have that experience too. And it was crazy because I remember that moment in the back of my brain being like, I want to come back to the school. Like, I want to give someone the journey that I had.
Mhm.
And when I left, I went and I worked for the Robert Cromeans Salon. I worked with Stephanie, and I was at the top of my game. I was able to work with her under great leadership with Robert and Mary Cromeans and everyone at that salon. And I was one of the first people, their first week on the floor as a stylist, to make the most their first week.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
it was using forward focus. I was just so forward focused about everything. And I got a lot of opportunities out of that. I got to travel with the show team and all these things started to come my way. And you would think, you have it all, Rhodie. You're at the top of your game. You're getting, to do all the things you wanted to do when you were in school. But something was missing. And I wasn't surrounded by that Paul Mitchell School environment and culture.
Yeah.
Special. And
Mhm.
I backtracked. And unfortunately, I got hospitalized for a year.
Yeah.
And everything that I worked hard for was kind of taken away. And I had to really think, what can I do at this point?
Mhm.
And that was a pivotal point in my life. And I look back on it and I don't wish it didn't happen because I'm a believer that every challenge is an opportunity. And when I look back, it really made me the person I am today, and it made me a lot stronger.
Mhm.
Um, and I think a lot of things, like, it's a domino effect, and things happen for a reason. And I believe that that didn't happen, X, Y, and Z wouldn't have happened, in that
Mhm.
future part of my life. And so it was really interesting because when I was hospitalized, it was one of those moments where I had clarity. I had two amazing mentors reach out to me during that time, Stephanie Kocieiski, who asked the pivotal question of, where were you the happiest, Rhodie?
Yeah.
And I said, the schools, without even thinking. And she's like, that's where you need to be. When you leave, you need to go to a school. And she was the one that really made me realize, like, that's where
Wow.
I need to be. That's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm going to thrive. And then I had another mentor reach out to me that he had gifted me something that changed my life and saved my life, because at that moment I didn't really want to try. And I'm a firm believer in you got to pay it forward. And I was able to pay that person forward really big a couple of years ago. But mentors are important in the journey of life. That's why I mentioned that, because without those two human beings, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't be here today. So there are two humans that are very special in my life for sure.
Yeah. Wow. 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 Okay, let's back up just for a minute because this is huge. So let's back up into being hospitalized for a year. Because I feel like we're gonna be talking to someone that's listening right now that's like, maybe I have an eating disorder too. And so how do you know if you have an eating disorder? What kind of disorder did you have? And what did that look like? And how can you recognize it in the early stages? And being hospitalized for a year, I know I'm asking a lot of questions. What did that look like for that year? Like, where were you? Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things where when I was diagnosed, I had anorexia as well as bulimia. So
Oh,
I
wow.
had a
Okay.
cocktail,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't necessarily start with both. For me, it started just restricting, like not eating and eating 2 meals, eating 1 meal a day. And then it started where because I was doing that and I was so malnourished, the end of the week, I would just, binge. And
Right.
then unfortunately I would purge because I would freak out and be like, oh my gosh, I have all this food and it's calories and, all these things. So yeah, it was definitely a lethal cocktail that I was playing with. I think the best thing you can do for someone that you think maybe is struggling, and signs are just like rapid weight loss,
Mhm.
being very kind of awkward when it comes to food, meaning like they may say, oh, I'm not having lunch today, or they push their food around on their plate. There's, I think, so much that goes into that, and everyone's disorder is so different.
Mm,
But, the way to approach someone, I think the best way is just to go in asking, just like our culture is,
yeah.
just checking in. Because I think for someone that is in it, it is very, for me, like shameful, but also very like, you also feel accolades when people do comment on your weight. If someone's like, "Oh, you're getting really skinny," you're like, and it would make me feel
Yeah.
good. And
Mhm.
um, that is a warped perception,
Yeah.
and it's still a
Mhm.
constant thing where I constantly have to check myself. There's moments when I look in the mirror, I'm like, "Ooh, you're gaining a little weight there," and I'm like,
Mhm.
no, 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 we don't think that way anymore. Like,
Yeah.
you look healthy, And so it is a constant, like, kind of battle, I think, but you rein yourself in. You learn tools that help you. And I can say that I learned tools while I was in treatment, but also like the culture helps me a lot
Mm,
because of that, just that forward focus, like switch of let's make a 10% shift in that thought process, Rhodie.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
still have moments where, I'll go out with friends and we'll eat and then go get dessert. And I have moments where I'm like, oh, like you're
Mhm.
eating a lot, but I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you're enjoying life, You're not eating like a whole tub of ice cream. You're having an ice cream cone, relax. And so it's good to have good support too. And I have great support, here in Tulsa with my Tulsa like family, but also too just people checking in, like, hey, how are you
Yeah.
doing? Stuff like that. And as far as the treatment program, you go through a process of just kind of reacclimating yourself with food. And that's really what it started with, was
Mm,
reactivating, like just like having a full meal, and what it's like to feel full, because I hadn't felt that in so long, and having, snacks that I deemed, oh, I could never, for the first time. And I've documented some of it, I remember, because I was so proud. Like I had a candy bar, that was a big pivotal point in my treatment. And eventually we got to the point where I could do outpatient, and I lived in a home with about 12
mhm.
other girls. And we were able to go to work, but the one qualification is like the pantry was locked up. We had, pre-made meals off of our meal plan. And we had to have dinner every night together at 6 o'clock. And then after we'd talk about our day and how we felt, and that really helped me transition out of treatment, because it wasn't just like treatment's done, go live by yourself. And that I knew was going to be a struggle for me. So it really helped me to get on a better kind of path and routine for myself. And it really, I think, was the catalyst for me to be successful. And of course, there was setbacks when I did, eventually leave treatment, but I always got back on. I was always very quick to be like, okay, need to make sure I make an appointment, or okay, I need to make sure I don't like condemn myself right now because I had a slip up, And so it's always something that's there, but I have the tools now, which is exciting. And also too, I just have great humans in my life that can check me a little bit, and say like, hey, how are you doing? I noticed X, Y, and Z, and you're like,
Mm.
okay, yep, I didn't see that. Thank you. Like I need to like check in on myself on that. So
Yeah.
that's really where I'm
Wow.
at today.
How long did you have this eating disorder for? From when did it start? And
It started around like 21. And it was
Hmm,
probably up until, when I was in treatment, it was probably about 3 or 4 years that it was going on. And, there was a year where it was like going on, and I think people knew, but they didn't want to say anything.
right.
I remember my mom saying that. She's like, we noticed, but it's like you're of age. What do we
Yeah.
say? You
Yeah.
know, the
Mm-hmm.
guilt a little bit. I remember my dad saying, I just feel really guilty because I buy you the food that you like, and I was like, it's not your fault. Like you just, you weren't the one that was in my brain. So
Mm-hmm.
it is very much a mental disease. And I think people don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's not just eat this, it's not about that. Like if I could just eat that, I would. But it's more of that control factor, and that I want to be this size, and my image of myself, is very warped in that sense. When I look in a mirror, it's like a funhouse mirror. That's what I tell people. It's not a normal mirror for me. And
Yeah.
so, it's one of those constant things you have to check yourself a little.
Yeah. That's amazing. So was it tied to a traumatic event from childhood? Is that common?
It is. I think for me, I grew up a more heavier set kid, a little
Mm-hmm.
chubby, and you get made fun of and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that always stuck with me. And I was athletic, but I was also not, I was very muscular too. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was a little bit hard for me too, because when I was growing up, especially high school and then college, it was the 2000s. And in the 2000s, diet culture was wild. Like,
Yeah.
and the
Right.
images you saw were very like model-esque, like it was very ingrained in that generation that like a size 2 or 0 was like, that's where you should be, even if
Mm-hmm.
that's not normal for your body. And
Right.
so, that fact of just the, I think, time frame and the trends. And it's interesting because I just watched a little documentary on YouTube about that, how, that diet culture in the 2000s was extremely dangerous. And it was because of what we were
Mhm.
seeing imagery wise. We were seeing, all these famous people that were very like underweight, and
Right.
now it's such a shift. It's
Mhm.
so awesome to see because it's,
Yeah.
all sizes are represented now within the
Mhm.
entertainment industry. And that wasn't how I grew up. And I wish I would have had that, because I don't think I would have had as a challenging experience, with an eating disorder if it wasn't for that. So for me, it was a lot of um not social media, but just media in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. Oh yeah, media is definitely controls our lives for sure.
Yeah.
Our culture. It's kind of scary.
Yes.
It's like, wow, okay. Yeah, watch what you're programming yourself with, right?
Yeah.
So garbage in, garbage out. And so which goes with, I think some of the steps I wrote down, which I think is huge, and we can expand a little bit on them in the interview here. The one was managing our thoughts and our energy, and staying forward focused, which is our terminology in the Paul Mitchell world, but I'm sure people understand this. But also, it's interesting because just completing a course with the John Maxwell team, our coach, she studies positive psychology, and I'm like, oh, that's exactly who we are in the Paul Mitchell school world, positive psychology, and just moving forward focus, so to speak, where you are. And then I heard another, it's Revelation Wellness. I do a lot of their workouts, and the founder, and she said something which you just said. She said, "No, we don't think that way anymore." In fact, she clapped her hands really loud, like when she has a bad thought, and she taught us this. clap your hands really loud and say, no, we don't think that anymore. Think
I love
think
that.
that way. And I was like, wow, that's really huge. Like once you get like a garbage thought about yourself, right? And so, and I love that because, and then when you said you had, you know, a piece of cake or whatever it was, and you said, no, you're enjoying life, right? So what
Yes.
other tools can you give people, like whether it's an eating disorder or any other type of disorder that they might have as well, too? I'm sure these tools work, you know.
For me, one thing I do daily, there's a couple things I do daily, and it helps me to be the best version of Rhodie that I can be. One of them is every morning when I walk in to work, I have to find three positive things happening. And it can be anything. It can be someone, just helping someone to leave the school, like open the door and walk them out. It could be someone supporting someone in, a hair technique, whatever that looks like. And in order to get to my final destination, I have to see these three things happening. And so that way I can really focus on the positive and be in a good mood when I like start my day. And
Yeah.
what's great is when you see the three, you start to see more positives. And so you just get on this like positivity like kick. And I try to teach every single human in our building, including staff, to do that because I think that is a game changer. And
Mm-hmm.
you can even do it on the way to work, driving. And I've done that before. And that's been a game changer. And then also at the end of the day, I have a gratitude journal and I write in what I did to refill my cup that day, because that's super, super important for me. I write in what I'm grateful for. And then, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I feel right now in this moment? And I write down the words to describe how I feel. And that really helps me like just ground me because it's number one, like, did you do stuff for yourself? Because I'm bad about that because I am obsessed with the schools. And so I'm like, school, 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 and you put so much in and then you're left empty. And so like I need to do things like watch my favorite TV show, read a book, go out with a friend, go to a concert. I'm a big concert goer, that fills my cup. And that's so, so important. Working out is one of them, it decompresses me. So after looking at that and then looking at all the things I have in my life that I'm grateful for, you go to bed with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
And then you wake up, with a smile on your face. So it's kind of a nice equal opportunity lender. And those are some things like I do, but I also am a firm believer in you gotta have fun.
Yeah.
That's one of my things is like, you know, I think some people like it's great. There's times you need to be serious, but I think when you put fun into it, it just makes everything better. Just like lighten up. Like it's
Yeah.
not that deep. Life is fun. Like
Mm.
make the most of it. And so, I do. I like to bring the fun, and I pride myself on that. I think that that's important in anywhere that you go or you work or anything like that. So for me, that's one thing I always keep in mind is like have fun. Like whatever you're doing, even if it's sweeping the floor, like put some music on and have fun. Like that's what it's all about.
Yeah. That's why I was so attracted to you from the beginning. And I was like, oh, I got to have her be a host on the Be Nice Clubs because you're so fun. In fact, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was getting ready to interview you. And I'm like, I think I'm going to call it Be Fun because that's who you are. Like if I was to describe you in one word, it'd be fun, and who doesn't want to be around someone that's so much fun? But that has come with sacrifice. That has come with a cost. And we all have something we're struggling with. And this is so huge because the process of managing your thoughts and energy comes with, you having a daily habit to get you into that positive psychology that we're talking about. And, just alone, the three positive things, this is huge because I've had to train my brain over the years because our brain is wired to see what's not working. And so we have to rewire our brains and just say, okay, well, what is working, right? Because now all of a sudden you're going to walk into the building and you're going to be pissing everybody off. Right? Because we have
And then
team members.
you're pissed off.
Yeah, then you're all pissed off. It's a domino effect. And we have team members that have this horrible habit. It's an ugly habit, but they're basically not being nice to themselves, right? So, and the ugly habit is they're walking in with a frown on their face, and people don't want to go near them because they're afraid to talk to them. And then they're like, "Well, Tina, I don't really know how to even like approach the subject. Like, are you okay? Do you need a hug?" Right? And then there's no shift. And so this is just huge. So what advice would you give? Because I'm sure you've had a couple off days, you've had to have, that you would give someone to approach someone that isn't so nice, because we already know, because they're not being
Yeah.
nice to themselves, they can't be
Yeah.
nice to other people. What's the best way to approach?
See, it's funny because like, and I love how you mentioned like, like obviously I don't have perfect days because that's something that like I think, everybody has their moment or their day, and I know for me, and I'm sure you're the same way because we are usually very positive. When
Yeah.
you do have that one day where you're
Yeah.
like off, you feel
Yeah.
like you're like letting everyone down and you
Yes.
feel like you beat yourself up.
Yes.
Like, and I do that because I'm like, I have to be always that person, but at the same time, I think you got to give yourself grace. And that's the way I look at it when there's someone that is kind of the negative Nancy, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Larry Lowrider.
yeah, back row Betty. They sit in the back row, Um,
Yeah.
but I think about that when I think about people like that. I'm like, you never know what someone's going through. And
Hmm.
sometimes life gets really heavy. And that's
Yeah.
usually when I have my days is like life just got real heavy you know, uh, and I have my day. And what I love is that I think at my school we're really great about that, like knowing that not everyone's always going to be, 110%. And I have one of my coworkers that she'll notice when not when I'm having a bad day, but when I'm at like a 5, when I'm more mellow, Rhodie, which is rare.
Yeah.
But there's days where I'm not a 10, I'm a 5,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I'm more mellow and more quiet and maybe thinking more in my brain about just life and things. And what she does is she acknowledges it and she knows and she's just like, you're at a 5 today. That's cool. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay. And I
Mhm.
like that because she knows like it's almost like I see you. I know that you're okay, but you're just a little more mellow today.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I usually absolutely hate, and this is why I never do this to someone that is in that
Yeah.
zone, is when someone's like, you seem off today. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Right. It's
like
not very
that
forward focused.
I'm like, oh, am I like not being a good human today? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So I never try to say that like statement. I'm always like, hey, what's going on? How are you doing today?
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit more open-ended. It's going and asking, and it's just you can get their perspective. You can see where they're at. You can check their
Hmm.
temperature and then go from there, And what I like to tell people is you always want to let people know of what makes you smile. So I do this activity and I tell everyone in the room, I say, close your
Hmm.
eyes. I want you to think of anything that makes you smile or things that make you smile. And what's funny is like even the people in the room that kind of have the face of rest, they never
Yeah.
smile. When I do this activity with their eyes closed, they're smiling. Everyone in
Wow.
the room is smiling.
Yeah.
Them open their eyes and I say, everyone in this room was smiling. So now I know you all have something that you do smile about, even the
Mm.
people that don't usually smile.
Good.
And say,
Yeah.
what you need to do is you need to let people know what makes you smile. And the reason is because when you are in those zones where you don't feel 110%,
Yeah.
they can support you.
Hmm.
And I had that happen in like a couple months ago that it was like almost like, wow, this is a thing. I walked outside my apartment, my car was gone. So I'm like, maybe I moved it. I looked down and I walked back where I parked it and there was broken glass there. And I was like,
Oh
okay,
boy.
my car was stolen. So I panic, and I call the police, I get all that situated, and I call work and I'm like, hey, my car's stolen. I'll figure it out. I'll be there as soon as I can. I get a call back from one of my co-education leaders, Jade, and she's like, I'm gonna come get you. She's
Mm.
like, and I'm gonna bring you a soda. Now, what you need to know about me out there is that Rhodie loves a Rhodie sody. That's what we call them. Soda makes me happy. Like a Diet Pepsi, you made my day. And so she comes, she picks me up, she has this soda in there, and she goes, and we are going to stop for Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I'm an East Coast girl. I love Dunkin'. And when I got to work at my desk was a big pile of like love notes.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she just knew what makes me happy. She knows the culture makes me happy. She knows soda makes me happy. She knows coffee makes me happy. And let me tell you, that helped me make that 10% shift. So that's one thing that I think is huge is like you need to let people know what makes you smile because they want to support you and get you out of your funky zone, or your backside
Wow.
thinking. So that was like a true testament to like I am very much like advocating now, like tell people what makes you smile because that was such a huge support in a time that I literally wanted to crawl back in bed and just go to sleep all day that day. And I went into that school and it was one of my favorite days. And so that just shows you what you can do with just the power of positivity, and having a good support system.
Yeah. Wow. 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 You definitely should be a life coach because I think you could even shift more lives for sure. And I can see why now that you're a part of the Paul Mitchell Advanced Academy, for sure. I think this is huge. Just the fact that you said what makes you smile, but how they created magic for you, there's no doubt it's because you've constantly created magic for others. And so I think sometimes, my students will come to me or my staff members and they're just like, no one likes me, no one ever does anything nice for me. I never hear anything positive for me. But I'm just like, well, what have you done for people? And I
Yes, it's
know
an equal
you.
opportunity lender.
Yeah, exactly. So talk a little bit about that because being nice is also about being nice.
Yeah.
Because when you
Yes.
give, you receive. Like, and in my book, Be Amazing, when you sow, you grow.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so give advice to someone right now that's frustrated right now and thinking that everyone hates them.
I think the biggest thing is you number one have to start with you. You have to create magic for yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, I create magic for a lot of people. That's like that's my love language, I guess. Like I just love doing it. And um I have to start with me first, which is little things, like I love getting my nails done. Like that creates magic
Mm.
for me. I love giving back and creating magic in our community. That creates magic for me. And I love, going to concerts. It's one of my favorite things. Like if I could go to a concert every single week, I would, it's the best for me. Um,
Amazing.
and if it was a Hanson concert, it would be even better.
Of course.
So, that starts there, but then also too, just making sure that like all people want is to be loved and appreciated. Like at the end
Yeah.
of the day, everybody wants that. And so you have to have that mentality. And whether it's small things like creating magic in ways like writing a little like post-it note to someone because you saw them do something amazing for someone else.
Mm.
Or it's what I've been doing recently is I did like two things. One was a bigger thing, but recently I go into classrooms as an education leader and just I see and make sure and inspect our systems are working, but also too to see what amazing things they're doing, because we have such amazing educators within our building. And every time I go in there, I just sit in and hang out. And I think sometimes that makes people nervous. They're like, "Ooh, she's like evaluating me."
Yeah.
But what I've been doing is I email after and I just do face things like,
Mhm.
"Hey, this is what I absolutely loved about your classroom. And I'm so excited and honored I got to be a part of that." And that's really helped, I think, our team just feel great about the education they're giving in their classrooms and how amazing they are. Because if you are like a great educator and you're in a classroom all day and people are like, "Oh, she's got it. She's seasoned. She's been in there a while. She's great." And no one ever comes in and checks in. You
Yeah.
get to a point where you're like, "Am I doing okay?" Like,
Right. Right.
And you get kind of stale. And so
Yeah.
I never want them to feel that way. And for me, that was like a huge thing that I could do to create magic for someone and make them feel acknowledged and seen and, you know, just celebrated in a way that's small yet like, oh, hey, like, okay, thank you so much. Like I didn't realize that that activity was as amazing as in my brain I thought it was when I made it up, you know? And
Yeah.
so that and sometimes big things, you know, like recently I just in our big classroom did a learning leader appreciation wall and their pictures are
Mhm.
up and then there's little bags hanging from the pictures and I told all the future professionals as well as staff, you know, let's show the learning leaders this week and next week some love and then they'll get to take their little bag of love notes home and just see the impact they've made on you and the school.
Yeah.
And how cool can that be for someone that maybe is at a point where they're burnt out and they're just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And then they realize the impact they made because
Mhm.
sometimes you don't see that
Yeah.
until someone writes you a quick little note or, you know, you see them graduate and do all these amazing things. You know, I think that we sometimes take for granted. And I think it's the small and big things combined that really can like set the tone, you know? And that was big for me to kind of just figure out because I wanted to make sure that, you know, my team was celebrated and that they know what it's like to create magic, you know, and so that they can. And what was cool is they've started to do that. Like there's little things that they've done that they are starting to have fun and create magic and do all these things that are maybe not inside their wheelhouse, you know, like even
Mhm.
simple things like we do this thing where we put out little culture boxes on each table in class and they have like affirmation cards, post-its,
Mhm.
toys, you know, all the things. And
Love
you know,
it.
people put them out, but not everyone was doing it. And now I'm going to classrooms, they're always there. And I'm like, you know,
Nice.
and
Love
I
it.
celebrated that. I was like, I
Yeah.
see you guys, like you're up in the ante with like the culture
Mhm.
in the classroom. So
Yeah.
that's what it's about, honestly, at the end of the
Wow.
day. You can tell like the smile on my face talking about that. I get
I'm
really
so happy right now. I'm
excited.
like, I want to hire her as our success coach for our schools. So I'm going to be stalking you. This is so big. And I do want to stop on one thing that you said, because I think it's really powerful. And I think someone needs to hear this, or everyone needs to hear this, including me. And I know we only have a few minutes left, which I hate this because I could do this for 4 hours with you. You kind
Part
of said
two, part
create
two.
magic. Yes, create magic for yourself. And, I've said for many years, buy yourself some flowers. And, the thing is you can't expect people to do things for you. You have to just be grateful if someone actually does. And so, especially as a leader, because now that you're a co-education leader, I bet you're going to notice the accolades aren't going to come as quickly for you. And that happens quite a bit. And so I know our biggest leaders in our companies, my business partners in our salons, as well as the leaders, as well as in our schools, that this happens to them, and they're just like, man, I just don't know if anyone likes me, and I'm like, well, do you like yourself? Like, because that's all that matters. And
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's so rare when I get a love note or something. I just had a student, he gave me a face award, the sweetest guy in Florida. And I saved it. I put it up on my board because I was like, I haven't had one of these in years. But I realized, because I'm not putting things out to add value. And so that forced me to get back into the schools and start adding more value to my teams and to my stylists. Like, how can I step it up? Right. So just start stepping it up if that's what you really need. So talk about that, because this is huge, because as a people pleaser, I bet, and I am one too. We all are, I think, in this industry. But as a people pleaser, we can get caught up in that rat race. It really is, because now you're looking for affirmation, which that's not good as a leader. You're not going to make it. What's your
Yes.
advice on that?
And that's a hard one. Like that one is I think the hardest one for me in leadership.
Yeah.
Because I am a very much a words of affirmation person. So I've really had to lean into that side of like if you're proud of yourself and you're happy with what you did, it's fine,
Yeah.
like don't overthink it. But
Yes.
the other thing is like making sure too that you are in the trenches with your team. I think that's so
Yes.
important. And a lot of leaders like to just sit in an
Oh,
office,
good.
just like behind
Yes.
a closed door, and then that's when
Mhm.
you absolutely are not going to get any like high fives. You know what I
Nothing.
mean? Like it's just, but I had a really great mentor once tell me, um, in that role of, an ed leader, it is a very thankless job sometimes. And I want you to be aware of that because I know you're someone that really loves, that affirmation of like, you're doing a good job. And I remember when I first got into like leadership within the schools, which was like a couple of years ago. I got into leadership at the New Hampshire school and then transferred to the Rexburg location. And that was when I really had that chat with my mentor, Emma Long. And she was just like, that's
Mhm.
something that you need to think about. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And I'll never forget it because it's something I always keep in mind. And that's what keeps me kind of like balanced in a way because I know that that's a part of the job. But I also am very firm believer, like, I'm never in an office really. It's rare you see me sitting and like typing.
Yeah.
I'm not that human.
Yeah.
I'm not good at paperwork. I'm not good at that side of things. Like I'm
Mhm.
more like I want to be out in the open. I want to be educating. I want to, like, and
Yeah.
so I'm lucky enough where I'm a co-ed leader. So I'm the side of the classrooms. I'm always in it. I'm in like yesterday I was in 3 different classrooms,
Mhm.
and I love that, but I'm
Yeah.
in it. And so I think, the future professionals, they see me, my learning leaders see me, leadership sees me. So I'm kind of everywhere in a sense. And I think that's a big part of it is you got to have that as well. You got to be able to like be the person that is kind of everywhere. Like you can't just be behind a closed door. That
Yeah.
will get you into a very like isolating place in
Yeah.
leadership. And
Yeah.
I like to lead through building relationships. And that was one thing that Stephanie Kocieiski taught me. She's like, you have to build relationships in order to lead people.
Yeah.
And I'm very big on that. And some people look at it as you're so soft and I'm like, no, it's like
Uh-uh.
if you build a
Yeah.
relationship with someone,
Mhm.
it's so much easier to coach them. And
Yeah.
also they give you respect because they know you as a human.
Yeah.
And there's nothing soft about that. That is just being a good leader. And I think
Yeah.
that really needs to change within like I think every industry because I think it's looked at as being a soft leader and you're not strong and respected. But I think at the end of the day, I get more respect because I'm like that, because I'm more like, hey, let's have fun, or hey, like,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about yourself, and I know when to have the right conversations, but it's easier for me to have those tough
Yeah.
conversations when I'm at that point with people. So,
Mhm.
um, that's really, I think, my advice that I would say to anyone. But also to like,
Yeah.
I think for me sitting here right now and thinking about all the things that I've done and the opportunities that I've had is, just being open to every experience. If you would have told me, years ago when I was in hair school that I would now be in Tulsa, Oklahoma and be a, co-education leader, I'd be like, what? Because
Mhm.
you just never know what could happen by all the saying yes that you do. I
Yeah.
never thought I would be doing, this with you right now, or, being a part of the Be Nice calls, or
Yes.
being able to work with an amazing local organization like Food on the Move. That's changed my life.
Mhm.
And having the opportunity to work with one of my favorite humans since I was 14 years old, you told 14-year-old Rhodie that she would probably faint,
Uh-huh.
sometimes
You never know
I
the
have to pinch,
doors.
yeah,
Yes.
sometimes I have to pinch myself, but that's kind of, really where I would tell people is just, like reach for the goals that seem kind of like a little bit delulu, as the kids say.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Because I think the
Unreachable.
more like Delulu,
Mhm.
it might actually happen. Like,
Oh, that's good.
I've had
Yeah.
so many things this past year happen that I'm like, what?
Wow. And you really do need that to expand your goals. And I love that you basically said you have to lead by wandering around. I've been saying that for years. I was telling my leaders, I said, if I could have a school without offices, I'd be much happier
Oh,
because I
yes.
feel like the culture would be, so I really think we need to rethink our buildings, how we're
Yes.
building them and what we're doing. And I think it makes a huge, huge difference for sure. So here's what I have down to be nice. You have to manage your thoughts and energy, which we talked about. I also put down with crisis comes opportunity and through your crises. And then I love the question Stephanie Kocieiski asked you, and I think this is huge. I think every leader should ask this of their team. Where were you the happiest? And I'm totally stealing that.
Yep.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Rhodie, for that. Number 3, I put down having mentors or a coach, having somebody support you, someone that's constantly checking in on you. I think that's huge. Asking for help. I put down have fun as number 4. And then number 5, creating magic for yourself, right? Buy yourself some flowers. And
Yes.
then number 6, celebrate yourself and others. And I loved some of the ideas that you gave about the appreciation wall too. Like, what about an appreciation wall for yourself at home? So
That's actually,
good
I'm
job.
stealing that. I like that.
High five yourself, you know what I'm saying? And number 7, I actually put lead by example because all of these things kind of fall underneath that too, because now people are going to do what people see. People do what people see. And so
Model
you
the
never
process.
underestimate the power of what one person can do in a company to change the whole company. And sometimes it may feel like really heavy on your shoulders, but I have a feeling that you've done that for your teams and you're doing it all over the country. And then lastly, I just put expanding your goals. I think that's so huge because you don't want to get stale. Like I was taught many years ago to do dream boards. So I do them with all my teams all the time. And I kind of want to see, are they stretching their dreams? And it's interesting, a lot of them are not. A lot of them aren't thinking bigger. They're thinking super small. And I'm like, oh, that's why they're not like so happy and positive,
100%.
right?
Yes.
And so
I
it's my
just did
job to help
dream
them.
boards at my school. We just did that
Love
actually.
it. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I
Yes.
love that. Yes. In
And
fact,
we did
yeah,
a new version of it. I just wanted to change it up. I like to
yeah,
kind of like find new ways to do things. And
me too.
I had them all cut out a star and they
Okay.
had to do it so there was all the different areas of the star and it was separated. In the center, they wrote their goal. And on the little tiers of the star or the like legs, they had to write like how they were going to support that goal, how they were going to get to that goal.
Love
Um,
it.
and it was really cool to see them really
Oh,
think about
good.
how they were going to get there because I told them a goal is just a wish without commitment,
Yep.
and so
Yep.
you got to have something to follow that up or you're going to kind of throw it in the
Wow.
garbage. So then I had them do a digital, visual board, and it really helped them to expand like, all right, obviously we all know our goals to graduate. What next? What's next? And some of them were like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is why we're doing this. We gotta let's figure it out.
Yep.
And it was very kind of like mind blowing for me to see them really like think about it. They were like really like you could tell like the wheels were
Yeah.
turning. So I love that you still do that as well because that's one of my favorites.
I love totally stealing it, getting some stars.
I'll send
I
you a
usually use
picture.
a boring sticky note when I do something like that. I do that with the future professionals through my book Be Amazing. And so I'm gonna do the star. So I gotta change it now. It's more fun. I
It
gotta
is.
be around people like you to be more fun. So if you're not fun, then hang around people that are fun and they'll make you cool like that. So just like Rhodie. If you got it real quick, you have to share with us how you got the nickname Rhodie.
Okay.
And then what else did we miss on the list of how to be nice?
Okay. My government name is Ashley. And when I got my job at a Robert Cromeans Salon, I moved. It's funny. I jokingly like think about the day that I moved because I had a little Volkswagen Bug and I put everything I owned into that Bug, and it's very small. And I drove all the way to Oklahoma And that's where I first started with Robert Cromeans Salon, was like the Tulsa salon. And when I got there, there were 5 Ashleys that worked at the salon.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
like, you can't be Ashley. And they were like, what nicknames do you have? And obviously all the nicknames were taken by the Ashleys, like Ash and all those things. So um the boys in the salon, they thought it was hilarious. They were like, you're from Rhode Island, Rhodie, Road Dog. And they
Cute.
jokingly started saying that. And we went out that night, and they started just introducing me as Rhodie, like not even and
Cute.
so it stuck. And it's funny, one of the guys that helped give me that name now works at our school in Tulsa. And
Wow.
it's funny how that comes around, and
Yeah.
I remind him, he's like, I didn't nickname you. I'm like, you were part of it. You were definitely part of it. And
I like
so,
Road Dog. I'm gonna change
yeah.
it to Road Dog.
I have a lot of nicknames at our school, Rodeo, Risotto,
Cute.
so
Cute.
I just go with it. So that is how I got my name. And yeah, that's the story of how Rhodie became a roadie.
I love it. You're so approachable, and I know the approachability of you allowing people to call you names. And I'm Grandma T now, and
I love
instead of like, no, my name is Tina, and you better spell it right. You know what I mean? And so it's like, lighten up, people, lighten up. If we want to be approachable, like that might start with your name. Get a nickname.
And it's funny because I think now that I have a nickname, I always give other people nicknames,
Yeah,
So,
it's
I've been
fun.
giving people names, like
Yeah,
we have nicknames for everyone at our school at this point. And it's hilarious because we have nicknames for even just people that are like visitors of our school. Like,
cute.
our local Food on the Move charity, they come in a lot and we have nicknames for every single one of them.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because then the students will call them the nicknames and they're just like, oh, and they're like, we're part of the family. I'm like, you are.
Yes, you are. Yep. And that is, it makes people feel a part of the family. They feel safe. They feel, approachable, that you're approachable as a leader, because that could be the first step is be approachable. What does that look like? And I really think all these be nice steps that we're talking about, Rhodie, is, going to help you to be a better leader. I always said with Wynn's book, Be Nice or Else, that we really should call it How to Be a Leader,
Yeah.
and so it's all the steps. But what did we miss on the list as we start to end this out?
Oh, wow. I think, you know, I always think like my biggest thing in life that I always constantly think about to like just make me more forward focused, even in like those times where I'm like, this is just the most challenging situation I've ever been in. And,
Mhm.
I've been through those challenging situations and, been to the point where I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And I think the most important thing you can always remember is like, if you can look a picture of yourself when you were younger in the eye and be like, I'm proud,
Mm,
from the eyes of who you were as a like a 4-year old, or a 10-year old. I think that really makes you think, and it makes you think about just like how you treat people and who you are as a human and all those things. And because I think sometimes we're not nice to ourselves in that
yeah,
sense. We're really hard on ourselves, and especially during challenging times. And so for me, it's all about thinking about that aspect, but also to acknowledging that even the most challenging things that come your way, you always get through it. And it's because it's an opportunity. And you may not realize it in the moment, but you will realize it maybe a couple days later or a week later.
mhm,
And it makes you stronger and it adds to your character. And that's one thing that I think I've grown in a lot over the past couple of years because I was a person that like if I was like coached or anything like that, I went from 0 to 10. And I still have my moments, where I go from 0 to 10 and I'm just like, I am awful and I just need to not work here. And I'm just an awful educator, like, and like you're in your own like pity party.
yeah.
Um, and
Mm,
I think I've just grown a lot in that and just acknowledging and moving forward and not dwelling in it. And I used to like sit in it for so long
yeah.
or let it like destroy me. And then I had to like reset, and I've just been more, okay, let's take it in. It's feedback. Feedback is feedback. It's neither good nor bad. It's feedback. It's what you do with it.
Mhm.
And you are going to grow from it, and it is what it is, and you can't change what happened. And so you just got to move forward with the knowledge you now have. And I think that's been a pivotal part of just my growth this year. And being okay too with just saying, hey, you know what, I made a mistake and I'm going to do better next time. And so just keeping that in the forefront, I think, is key. And I think a lot of people, like, they self like deteriorate in that way, where they take things really too hard. And I love the phrase Q-tip, quit taking it personal.
Right.
Um,
Right.
because I am a Q-tip. I take everything to heart, especially when I'm at the school, because I put so much into the school. And so when something does happen, I'm just like, it's all my fault. I'm awful. I'm not doing my job, and I have to really remind myself, like, it's not that deep,
Right.
you're
Right.
okay. Like, you're doing what you're supposed to, and we just maybe need to make a shift here. And
Yeah.
so that, I think, is asterisk that, star it. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the top
Key.
things.
Yeah, I agree. You have a very inspirational Instagram. Tell everyone what it is so they can follow you.
It is at Rhodie Style. So it's all things education, positivity, and trying to make sure we have amazing dress code at Paul Mitchell Schools. So an outfit of the day.
Yes. Yes.
And
You're tackling
honestly, it
a
keeps me
very tough
inspired,
subject.
you
Dress
know?
code.
Yeah, it keeps me inspired. It keeps me wanting to, like, have fun
Yes.
with dress code, because I do love, like, an all black uniform. I love that. But sometimes I've been with Paul Mitchell so long, and I've been in all black clothing for so long, that it does get kind of boring. And so that idea of having to film a video every morning to inspire the next generation of hair to make sure they're looking professional and amazing, it inspires me. It gets me kind of excited for the day. So that's another way that you could be kind of a little bit happier and more positive in the morning, is, challenge yourself to do that, because I have fun with it. And even when I'm not
Okay.
feeling it, it helps me kind of get out of that funk, which is really cool.
Yeah. I think that could be the last one, like, add value in areas to people that you want to add value to yourself too. And you could do it right on social media and it's free. And that's what you
Yeah.
do. And I love how you're building a brand even outside of the Paul Mitchell schools. And I think that's really important. And I try to push all of our team members and students to do the same, because it's just going to help you grow.
Yeah.
Just going to help you grow personally, and you can add value at the same time. You're creating magic, right? Being nice to yourself, being nice to others. So that could be our last step in this process for sure. So,
Oh, that's huge.
Rhodie, I thank you so much for being on today. This was an incredible, incredible episode. I know people are going to share this like crazy with so many people. And any famous last words you want to leave that you've been dying to tell our
Ah,
audience, the Be Amazing B series
oh, well,
podcast?
I think, yeah, I mean, it just, I think the biggest thing is you gotta surround yourself with positivity, and that starts
Yeah.
with people in your life. It starts with TV shows you watch, books you read, podcasts you listen to.
Mhm.
You really are affected by that. And I think
Yeah.
when you surround yourself with the right humans, you know it, and you're gonna thrive. And I think it took me a very long time to find that. And I have finally found it in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which, yeah, people are always like, where? And I'm like, Tulsa,
Yeah.
Oklahoma. 'Cause I'm an East Coast girl. But
Yeah.
when I tell you I've found my people, I truly have. I don't think I've ever been somewhere where I felt as safe, happy, energized, inspired, pushed, and, like, really have grown the most over the past 3 years. I've only been here for 3 years, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and that has been a really great experience for me. So it's all about finding, your people. And when you find your people, you're going to thrive. And they'll push you to be the best version of you. I think, there was a point where I was very stagnant and I was kind of bored. And I think coming to Tulsa, Oklahoma gave me the push and the drive that I needed to now be, the Rhodie that I am, right now in present time. So it's definitely like my home. I mean, I got it tattooed on me, head in the future, heart in Oklahoma. So they're never
It's
getting rid of me
official.
now. Um, and I jokingly always tell people, like, if you were ever to try to take me from here, like, my director Natasha would fight you.
Yes,
She,
that's right.
I absolutely adore her. She's like my favorite person, but she's also like the person
She's
that pushes me
amazing.
most.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, God bless you. I appreciate you so much, Rhodie. Take
thank you.
care.
This is amazing and a true honor. So thank you so much. And thank you for being an amazing mentor.
Oh, I love you so much.
Love
Take
you.
care. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.